Welcome to another episode of Game Boy Roulette, where we take a look at randomly chosen games from the Game Boy library. Avenging Spirit. Ooh, I've been waiting for this one. Avenging Spirit is an odd little duck of a game. It began life as an arcade game, a side-scrolling action platformer where you're a ghost who can take control of enemies and use their abilities. A pretty fun concept and kind of ahead of its time for 1991. In 1992, a Game Boy port was released, the only port of the game at the time. Then a full 2 decades go by before the game suddenly shows up again on iOS, then goes to bed for another 10 years before a re-release hits the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, and all future consoles. Kinda weird for a game that didn't really have much press when it was first released, but hey, any love for old arcade games gets a thumbs up from me. I've actually played this game before. See, every once in a while I host Game Boy Roulette live on my Twitch channel and attempt to beat a few games at random, and last time I did one, Avenging Spirit came up. I'd never heard of the game before then, but it was nice to get to know a little-known Game Boy game. And as a preview, it is a fun game, but the last stage features one of the most absurd difficulty spikes I've ever seen on the Game Boy. It's like someone spliced Cuphead into the last minute of Super Mario Land, and that did rather taint my thoughts on the game. So I am looking forward to giving it a more thorough, discerning eye, rather than the slapdash way I looked at it while streaming. The box art is, what? Does this happen in the game? It's like there was a mix-up in designing, and somewhere there's a game about 1920s mobsters with an image of a ghost. This is one of those cases where they changed the box art for the US release, because the European box art is so much more fitting for the design of the game. Props for the bow tie, though. I've been wanting to give this one a more critical look for a while. Let's return from the dead with Avenging Spirit. Ooh. Right. It goes from dark music to weird space music. Avenging Spirit. A game, like I said, I have played before, but didn't do that much playing of it. Just once on Game Boy Roulette Live. Music on? Heck yeah, music on. There he is, John Avenging Spirit. I called your spirit here. Yeah, they kind of explain it. You were a guy and then you were killed by gangsters. And they also kidnapped your girlfriend. Also his daughter. I'm the cutest ghost ever. And now a tutorial. To possess an enemy, position yourself on top of them, push the button. So when you're in ghost form, you can move around any direction, but that energy bar at the bottom, you do slowly run out of. So let's possess an enemy. Ding! Now, I can jump and attack. Each enemy has its own move. She shoots these, kick lasers. And so, you just have to go through the game. You'll also notice the 3 keys at the bottom. The 3 keys are how you get the good ending. Yes, there's a good and bad ending. The game is pretty short. It's only about, I think, 30 to 45 minutes long. So you lose character energy first and then ghost energy. I think this is a power-up, right? Yes, it is. That's ghost power-up. Oh, and if you hit... What? Hey! I was gonna possess you. Are you back? You are. If you hit select, you abandon the previous body and can possess someone else. What does this guy do? He has a projectile. Ow. It's a really, really fun concept for a game. Oh, he's dead. It's very, it has that Kirby vibe of enemies can become your power. But this game actually came before Kirby. Boss. Yep. The game is rather adorable. So one problem, the bosses are a bit of a slog because they take so many hits. Come on, one more. Boom. Only 6 stages. Short game. But there's cutscenes. I discovered the map in a pile of garbage. Ah, right. The map. Remember? Yeah, so this is explaining the gimmick. The good and bad endings. The bad ending is the girlfriend just dies. So we're not going to get to it in this playthrough, but I should mention, the game is pretty simple until the last stage, where the difficulty skyrockets. I don't know what they what they were thinking. Uh-oh. Oops. Off to heaven. But stage 6 is just, I didn't actually complete it when I played it for Game Boy Roulette Live. Because it was so long and so crazy difficult. I'll take you. It's a very odd choice to have the final level have not even a difficulty curve, it's like a difficulty wall. Oh, right, that's another interesting mechanic I forgot about. If you go through walls, you lose energy a lot quicker, so you actually have to balance quickly getting around versus staying on the path. And each level has its own, like, set of enemies, so you need to decide, okay, which enemy do I want to use for this one? What is that? What is that thing up there? I don't remember that thing. Controls are, by the way, nice and tight. Just the right amount of floatiness so you can control yourself. Oh, I remember what that is. It's a robot we can possess. Heck yeah. I do think that it's a case where the difficulty... Oh, key number 1. The difficulty kind of ruined it. And that's why it's not as highly regarded or well-known. Like, it was certainly well-known enough to get a whole bunch of, eventual ports. All pretty recent ports, actually. Like, the game came roaring back with the re-releases. But I do think that if the game didn't have such a difficult ending, it probably would have been considered an absolute Game Boy classic. I want you. There's a mage, right? Yeah, it's fun to decide, you know, what character you need for what occasion, and see what's available. I do, like I said, I wish the game was a little bit easier at the end, but overall, Avenging Spirit, very fun game. Oops. Until you fall into spikes. At which point it just becomes sad. Oops. And don't mind me, I'm off to go argue with God. See, I told you it was fun. Well, up to a point. Avenging Spirit is one of those games that surprised me when I played it, because it's really the kind of game I would have put a ton of time into as a kid. No disrespect to Kirby, but Avenging Spirit got to this really clever gimmick before he did. Being able to jump between bodies is a simple but innovative mechanic, one that lends itself to all kinds of strategies. Do you find one really good ability you like and stick with it, or do you do a lot of jumping around to change depending on what the situation calls for? The way you move around as a ghost, the separate life bars, the extra life lost when you go through walls, is just all really well done action platforming, and the game's really good graphics and fun soundtrack only elevate the experience. But like I said several times, there is a problem, and it's one we really didn't see, but I can assure you is there: the difficulty spike. This is a short game, only 6 stages, so to apparently add length to the game, they crank the difficulty up high in stages 5 and 6. Multiple traps, tons of enemies, not many power-ups, it's a little ridiculous. But I guess I can't really hold it against the game too much, because otherwise it'd be about 15 minutes long. So between that and the multiple endings, it does add some solid replayability that benefits Game Boy games. And revisiting it, it does make me want to jump back in, power through, and finish it, because I never actually did when I played it the first time. Avenging Spirit is a perfect example of why I started Game Boy Roulette in the first place, to discover amazing games I had never heard of on my favorite system. Even with the difficulty issues, I can give the game my full recommendation. And as far as jumping back in, well, it might be happening sooner than you think. And that's all for another episode of Game Boy Roulette. Make sure to like the video, comment, and subscribe to follow the series as we continue to dig through the Game Boy vault. I'm BrianJ, and I'll see you next time.